Is that what you want? That's what you want.
Wow, it goes live way faster now. You see that? Remember, it used
I didn't know. I was.
No, it's
distracted as usual.
Yeah. Apparently, the YouTube technology has been upgraded, everyone, because we've seen two different changes. One is that the time from you're just sitting alone talking to the computer to you're live talking in front of the whole internet, it's very dramatically reduced. Secondarily, they've changed their entire studio, or creator studio as they call it, UI. And so it was, it's also chilly day in the background, if you guys can see that. It's pretty exciting. So that's pretty exciting. So if you are trying to create a YouTube live stream, beware of the new UI. With that, I'll say, hello, dearies. Welcome to Undersampled Radio, episode 84. It's been a while since I've said that.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Matt? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. As I was just about to say when you sent us live, I was just about to say how much I've missed you.
Aw, missed you too, man. It has been how many months since we last had a show?
Well, I think the last thing we did together was the hackathon, which was August, was it?
I was just searching my calendar for that. Hackathon.
I feel like it was in the heat of the summer.
Good. Oh, here we go. Yep, July 29th.
Okay. And then, I think you put up the presentations from that hackathon, which are well worth watching. And that was it. And then it was kind of, I guess then it was summer break. And then we forgot about the whole semester.
Yes, indeed. Well,
everyone was just too busy having a good time, swanning around, twiddling their thumbs, doing cool stuff. Probably, I don't know what you were doing.
Well,
hopefully we'll find out.
We'll get to that. That's in the notes. But before we do, are we back, or is this just a one-off?
A flash in the pan, a fling for old time's sake.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I love doing these. It's fun. It's given how, I mean, I know that there's a very large amount of preparation that goes on, and that's all a bit heavy, like the hours of stuff that we put into it. But actually doing the show is a blast. And if we can cut down a little bit on the preparation, then
our listeners may not realize that there's any preparation at all. But yeah, it's hard work. It's hard work, man. So I like doing these shows too. They're great fun. It's good fun to catch up with you, and I really enjoy meeting virtually, especially new people that we have in the show and hearing about what's going on in their worlds. I ain't making any promises though.
No, well, we're not in the business of promises. But no, I mean, I was flicking through the Undersampled Radio website earlier, looking at all
what's that website, by the way?
Undersampledrad.io. There's also, you can also go to the YouTube channel, Undersampled Radio channel, which I think is just missing some of the early episodes, but certainly it's got the vast majority of them are on there too. And a lot of good memories, a lot of people, the whole rogues gallery of geoscientists, data scientists, random folks we picked up along the way.
Yeah.
And
I've heard from a couple of our previous guests about their experience on the show and how they were introduced to people because they advertised or whatever their own episode. And that's awesome. So
it's pretty cool.
It's doing something.
exactly. Yeah. So anyway, the ripple effect. Let's get more of that.
Yep. Second, also, if anyone wants to give us some cash to do this show, we'd be much more motivated. Because it's hard work and it's expensive, folks.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, let's talk about episode number 84. We got to make it to episode 100 for the sake of fireworks and laser beams.
Okay. Okay. We're still on the base 10 thing.
Oh God, I forgot about this.
I was shooting for 128, but whatever, that's fine.
Okay,
still good.
I don't know. See, I'll be happy if we make it to 85. Where are we? Your first note on the list is where are we? But I think our repeat listeners or repeat viewers will be able to tell where we are based on our backgrounds.
Yeah, we seem to be in our home bases. I see you're there in your apartment in beautiful Austin, Texas.
I am.
And I'm here in my cubby hole in my co-working space. Well, in Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia, Canada, eh? But yeah, well, it's not an co-working space. It's my co-working space.
Did you sell out? Did you go corporate?
Yeah, we sold out. We it was a pretty major transaction. It hit most of the newspapers in Canada. A big takeover like that is always gonna ruffle a few feathers. But we got bought out by it's my first exit of a startup. We got bought out by the co-working space from the next town over. Which was started by a friend of ours and indeed member of ours. One of our early signups who realized that there were more co-workers potentially to be had in the next town over. So he went over there and did that. And his business, Mashup Lab, is totally oriented around entrepreneurship and supporting small businesses in rural Nova Scotia. So the hub and his co-working space are completely pointing in the same direction, and it seemed to just make a lot of sense. So, quite honestly, I've been away so much lately, and one of my co-founders, Dave, who's here all the time, it was also getting too much for him. So it's been good.
So what you're really saying is that now Undersampled Radio is paying rent too.
That's right. I mean, the expenses are mounting up quite substantially. So yeah, as you say, donations most welcome.
Where have you been traveling so much?
We've been so in September, I basically moved to Europe for 3 months. So my whole family came with me, and we spent September in Norway, and then they went to France. I went to the UK and bounced between the UK and Norway for a while. So there was, a lot of Oslo, Harstad even in November, the dark north of Norway.
What is
inside
Harstad?
The Arctic Circle? It's like it's a long way north in Norway, up near the Lofoten Islands, if you know where those are.
I thought you were going to say up near Santa.
Very beautiful if you get to see it in the daylight, which we didn't.
What was it? Was it business or what?
Yeah, this is all either teaching our geocomputing class, which is Python for geoscientists and subsurface people, or running events with people, hackathons. So we did several, I'm not sure how many, 5 or 6 hackathons, a couple of conferences, and taught the course 9 times, I think, or 12 times or something. Yeah, it was intense. And then that's continued actually after Christmas. So we're Evan and Diego teaching right now in Calgary. We've already done the course 4 times, I think, this year. So yeah.
It's February.
I know, it's crazy. It's awesome. Like it gives me goosebumps, because when I think about like compared to this time last year, I think we've taught over 300 people, nearly 400. So there's all these people out there, you know, installing Python, like doing geophysics, doing geology in code, having fun with matplotlib. And yeah, I mean, there's this whole sort of rising tide of digital scientists out there. It's pretty cool. So, you know, I mean, obviously they all go off in different directions after the class, and some of them probably find it a bit hard to continue on their own. You know, there's always a bit of that, a bit of friction. But you know, we hear from some of them are off doing all sorts of cool things and want to, like, I got an email today from a guy who's just built his first web app, chatting to someone on email about how they can package the stuff they've been writing so others can install it. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's been fun to be part of.
Speaking of the rising tide of geoscience computing, how does that look from your angle? So now I'm an outsider looking in, and I do hear again and again that finally modern analytics techniques and geocomputing are taking off and getting investment from upper level management. And what does the landscape look like now? So it's been 8 months since we talked.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the case that it's fully permeated the you know, management. So it's gone that far. Like the sponge is completely saturated at this point. But you know, as usual, some of that message is coming down. Like some of it's coming from the, you know, VPs and the board saying, what's our story around digitalization? You know, that's the big buzzword still. But a lot of it is coming up too from the engineers, scientists, professionals who are doing their work and realizing, wow, I need access to this database. I need that data set to be in order. Can I open source this tool that we've written? Can I go to this weird sounding conference on digital exploration? Like there was one last week in Oslo. So, you know, it's coming from sort of both directions in these organizations. And so the message is definitely like that bit's over, right? Everyone knows you can use all these words with people, and people at least will nod and go, yeah, digital transformation. So next, I guess we get, maybe there's the hype wave still hasn't passed through yet. Like that's still happening. So there's a lot of marketing stuff. There's a lot of what you might call cookie licking, land grabbing going on, you know?
Yes.
I just heard this cookie licking expression the other day, and I love it because it's exactly right.
It's better than the analogy with the dogs, which we won't go into on the show, but yes.
Yeah, so cookie licking is where you like see the cookie you want. You don't want it right now, but you lick it so that no one else can eat it. And I guess it's like staking claims. And that's going on big time. So at this DigX, I guess the name of the conference was, last week, I mean, every other presentation on day one was like, we're building an open data platform. It will be the one true open data platform that you've been waiting for, which was interesting. None of them so far are open, weirdly. So that's also interesting and another story. Then there's a lot of people talking about cross-industry collaboration, like we've got to do more open stuff. We need more open data. One or two presentations even mentioned open source software. And yeah, I think then, of course, there's the usual, what you expect from service companies, probably Agile included. I don't know. It's hard to be objective about how our messages look from the outside. But I mean, there's a lot of like, we've built all these amazing models and done all these amazing machine learning projects. No one's done more machine learning projects than us. We get 99.3% accuracy on everything we do. And this took 1 hour. And, that kind of thing is a lot of that. So, and, in the absence of any benchmarks or any open accessible results, you can pretty much say whatever you like. And just hope that people believe you, essentially, or go, oh, wow, that other company told me they only got 98.7%. So I think we'll go with you guys.
Ouch.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's...
So the hype wave is rolling in. The hype tide is rising. I like this. We had ripple effects and waves and tides. This has been a very water-oriented show.
Yeah.
What's the action quotient on the hype?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess like we usually name names, right? So I mean, you got companies like Cognite, who are, I think, entirely owned by Aker BP in Norway still, but they got a lot of people. I think they have tons of money. Like, they have developers, they're building stuff, they have a GitHub with stuff on it. But as far as I know, their platform is actually not, like, you have to go pay for their platform, and then you can use all the cool stuff that they're writing on top of it. So they're making a lot of noise and seem to be doing a lot of stuff, but they're owned by an oil company. And I think it's basically just a commercial offering. I mean, I think that's they're the data liberation front company, right? That kind of took Google's data liberation front buzz, if you like, and put it around their offering. So you can't touch their stuff, so it's hard to know. But for sure, they've got a thing, and it's real. I've seen it in action at the hackathon in Stavanger in September. Shell have this thing called the Open Subsurface Data Universe, OSDU, which is an open data platform. It's being administrated by the Open Group, who do open source stuff. But right now, I think my impression is it's in some sort of incubation phase where you have to join the Open Group in order to be part of or see what's going on. So it costs a few $1,000. So that's not open yet either. And then, you know, I guess Teradata have a platform. Some of the oil companies have internal platforms that they're talking about. And I believe a lot of the stuff I'm seeing at oil companies, like, that's real. I've seen some of it in action. Blueware is another company with an open data platform. Or maybe they haven't used the word open with theirs, but they've got some sort of offering. They talk about open source as well. I've seen them do some cool salt stuff, the usual salt interpretation, neural network stuff, and it looks pretty cool, but again, can't actually touch it yet. So one of them told me the other day, oh, you can just kind of import Blueware and then go do blueware.awesome on my data set, and away you go, 3 lines of code, and I'm like, cool, that sounds great for you. So yeah, we'll see where it all leads, I guess. But I'm interested. Schlumberger just announced their Monaco thing in September, I think it is, their big client show. And they've got the ocean logo there, and they use the word open about 20 times in the little video that they've put out. So I don't know if there's some kind of open API coming to ocean, but that would be a big deal.
Cool. The view that I have from the view I have of this sort of revolution is more from the grassroots angle. And what I mean by that is I am in contact with a lot of people who are in the oil business right now. Let's say like engineers and scientists who are in the oil business right now and are having fun playing with techniques like data sciencey things and machine learning types of stuff. And they're like, how do I get a job doing this? So there is a group. I just went to hang out with a group called the Houston Energy Data Science Meetup. You can find them on meetup.com and some other places. They have a great group they've assembled everybody in Houston who's interested in, sort of sits at the intersection of geo and data science. And so I went to hang out with them a couple of weeks ago, and really was kind of impressed by the amount of engagement that each one of the attendees had with, this was a panel discussion. So the panelists were hiring, some of them, and the people got jobs at this event, and they were kind of like transitioning. It was, I don't know, it was kind of, it was an uplifting, enlightening moment for these people. And so it was exciting and inspiring to see, like, wow, this is a thing. People get jobs actually doing this instead of just hearing about it in the news outside of my industry. So I'm encouraged that there's actual real investment in the space. And then the other view I have is just from sort of, the Gartner level perspective, where I'm kind of poking around in the sales domain, trying to figure out where money is flowing to see if we can recoup some of that and try to help people out with projects, right? So
I'm interested in this meetup and the job space, because that hadn't occurred to me that people were thinking, that would be cool. Like, I'd like to go do this for a living instead of, carrying on with interpretation stuff in an organization that maybe doesn't get it yet or whatever. But are those, is that recruiting happening into, technology/software, data science oriented companies so that they can serve the oil and gas industry or the extraction industries?
There's some of that, but there's also, there are also, and again, this is, my limited view, but there is also recruiting, like, cross business group inside of organizations. And so that event that I was at specifically, there were technology companies, a startup and a very well-known established company, consulting company, that were looking for data science employees that had a strong background in the geosciences. But then in the crowd, I met some people working inside of bigger companies that are looking to sort of move people inside the org who have these quantitative skills, or who, in this case, wanted to learn those skills. So it's pretty encouraging to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's great. I think a bit of sort of fluidity in the in the job market, is good for both sides of that equation. And it might act also as a little bit of a added wake-up call if people start leaving their sort of subsurface positions. I think that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. That fluidity, as you say, there's a slow rolling tsunami. To stay on our water theme, headed in the direction of companies that utilize antiquated methodologies.
Yeah, right. I mean, really cool. I mean, that's one of the messages that we've been trying to sort of promote in as we teach the courses. Like, we don't want to make a big deal out of this because we're usually doing it in-house for some employer that, of course, wants to keep their people. And I think training is a really great way to show that you value people. But I mean, the reality is that it is a little bit of an insurance policy that a professional can have is a bit more digital in the way of digital skills. Yeah, one of the other observations, I guess, because you were asking about like what's like the action, like what's really happening through all that hype that we were talking about. And one of the other things I'd say about what we see in the classes is, because we do people do projects in the class. So the last day 5 is people are working on their personal projects, using what they've done in the class and using the fact that we're there and that they have each other there and don't have any meetings that day to actually get some cool stuff done. That they, and hopefully that will kind of keep them going through the certain amount of pain they're going to experience as they continue to learn. And so, you know, we get to see at that point a little bit of what kind of things they're struggling with and what kind of things they want to do in their work. And there's a substantial gulf, let's say, between the stories that you hear, you know, the VPs and the digital gurus talking about at conferences, and the daily reality of people trying to get work done in those same organizations, right? It's like, oh yeah, that's wow, your organization has really switched on. It's amazing that you're doing all these digital transformation projects. Can't wait to work with you. And then meanwhile, people are trying to export data from Petrel and load it into pandas and make a plot of this one thing, or connect to this database over here, or reformat this crazy file that they got from their reservoir engineer or their geologist or whatever. And that's actually people's daily reality. So, you know, I feel like the stuff's, I mean, and that's our reality too, right? As data people, that is the work.
That is the work, yeah.
So, I mean, you know, that's to focus on all the accuracy scores and the amazing predictions you can do is sort of missing the real story.
Well, it's a necessary step.
Yeah, but it's the punchline.
Yes.
Only.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's not just true in the oil and gas industry. That's true across industries. We talk to a lot of companies in a lot of different spaces. In many cases, the established companies, shall we say, haven't because they haven't been formulated based on a data strategy first type of initiative. They're not prepared to start doing like quantitative analytics, and that's a bit disappointing to management because the barrier to entry is so high. I mean, you have to spend tons of money to be able to organize all your stuff in a format that allows you to perform the slicing and the modeling and all that good stuff, right? So yeah, investment to insights is very high for established organizations. And I've been having a lot of fun working. I don't work extensively with startups, but I've been having a lot of fun recently working with some startups who have, because they were formulated data strategy first, are now and have always been ready to do all the really hotshot analytics type of stuff. So one problem that I worked on recently, that my team worked on recently, is for a company called Kinsa Health. And so Kinsa is a healthcare company that sells digital thermometers, smart thermometers that connect to your cell phone. And they asked us to help them build a spatiotemporal model of the spread of influenza and influenza-like illness across the United States. So they have all this aggregated data from all over the country, right? And I think it goes down to like the zip code level. Maybe it goes down to the county level. I don't know what the relationship there is. So if you have all this information from all these different counties, you can actually build up a sort of temporally varying map throughout history. And so we built a pretty sweet system based on this like linked mesh of recurrent neural networks, and built up this forecast for them. So it's in beta right now, and it's rolling out soon. So check it out. And I just posted a blog actually on our website about the project. So
cool.
It was absolutely fascinating.
I need to check that out. I'm ashamed to say I don't think I have your blog in my reader, which I've been totally ignoring for the last 4 months anyway. But I need to do that.
An absolute ocean of blogs out there.
Yeah. So tell me, like, what are you? What is your practice area? Is energy still a thing for you, or are you more across the board, just anything machine learning?
Yeah. So energy is a subset of the customers that we're interested in working with. We aren't specifically focused in oil and gas, but we do have clients in that space. The common thread, the only common thread that exists between our customers is that they're all so-called expert users. So geophysicists are expert users, right? Day traders are expert users. Civil engineers are expert users. So the use cases that we like working on are ones that are like quantitative, which obviously lends itself well to data science and machine learning, and then are very, the interactions with the system are usually very complex. Like think about your interpretive workflow as a geophysicist. Like you need a lot of domain knowledge to perform that workflow. And when you are performing the workflow, you need things to be in the right places. You need things to make sense in terms of the actual domain experience. And so we don't necessarily focus on specific industries, but we do have some key focus areas. And one is the financial space. So we do a lot of work for FinServ and FinTech companies.
What was the first thing you said? Fin what?
Financial services, FinServ.
FinServ.
There you go.
I like it.
And the thing that's really been sort of, I've been obsessed with over the last 6, 8, 10 months now is infrastructural engineering. So it turns out that there are all of these really complex problems going on in a pretty wide array of industries, but like all across one horizontal swath, which is if you're trying to get stuff from one place to another place, and there may or may not be steps in the middle. So the classic example of this is a supply chain network where you've got like raw materials on one end, and on the other end you have deliveries to customers. And in the middle, all this stuff has to happen to turn raw materials into finished goods. But then related to this, and what we've found in the past year is that supply chains look a lot like other infrastructural engineering problems, like road networks, for instance. So you can use a lot of the same techniques to analyze infrastructure problems and, let's say, like, for instance, traffic problems, using the same types of analysis that you use in supply chain analysis to like turn iron ore into I-beams. So man, it's been awesome. Just the past year of like picking around, especially since we've talked, we've been working on some just really fascinating projects. Like we used reinforcement learning, a fairly sophisticated system built out of a container, like a grab bag of agents, of reinforcement learning agents, just like pick one and go type of things, that scheduled deliveries across. And actually there's a blog about this on the website as well. So there are planes flying around the Australian outback, and there are packages of medicine that need to be delivered to customers. And obviously this is a cartoon example. We can't show the real customer data, but the analysis type is the same. And so the question, like, you could use operations research to solve that problem. That's classic. It's basically like the vehicle routing problem. But what we did was say, let us like forget about all of the rules-driven approaches that have been used in the past, like mixed integer programming and things, and instead let's just focus on let's try to intricately define what the system looks like. And then let's just have these reinforcement learning agents run through it over and over and over again. And it turns out that you get just these beautiful solutions to these problems. Like, for instance, in that blog, you'll see that one of these planes learns to wait. So there's all these packages popping up and they have to be delivered and all this stuff. And the agent, the reinforcement learning system, learns that in some settings, it's actually better to just hold back a little bit and wait for the environment to change around it. And that is a type of sophistication that I've never seen with any type of deterministic or operations research problem. So you think about an optimizer, convex optimizer, for instance, like it's always trying to force down into the global minimum or local minimum or whatever. But in this case, like there's an aspect, a false aspect of human intuition in these systems. Just amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, yeah, these blog posts, just looking at that one in particular, they're really rich. So yeah, kudos to Ryan in this case, but
Ryan Brady,
the folks at Xpera who are putting these together. It's really nice.
Yeah, thanks. We're pretty passionate about these things we're working on, and as you can tell, I mean, they're very interesting projects. So
yeah, that's really cool. My feed reader, however, cannot find a feed for your blog, so you guys need to. I know feeds are rather old school.
I'm gonna put a note. I don't even have a notes document up. I'll put it in the show notes.
I haven't tried looking, but usually it finds whatever there is, because that's the only way I can keep up with stuff. Otherwise, I'm just kind of hopeless.
In the show notes now, because I didn't have a notes document up. Okay. So there is an absolute sea of information in these show notes that we can walk through. I'm trying to force it.
Yeah, we got 4 or 5 shows worth of material sorted out.
Yeah. So you have a bunch of events in here. Are these upcoming? February 22nd. Yeah. So these are all upcoming. Machine learning.
I mean, I just wanted to. I guess all it really was that 2 years ago or even 1 year ago, you could sort of say, "Oh yeah, I heard this event happening in October," but now that I hear about something almost every week, it feels like. So I wasn't aware of the DigX thing that I went to last week in Oslo until sort of, I think it was even after Christmas. So that that was a sort of 2-day thing. Now most of these things are just workshops. They're really just a bunch of talks, and in many cases they're a bunch of the same talks. So there's people like me who just show up at these things and give a talk that's quite similar to a talk you may have heard before, because we all tend to bang on about the same things. Anyway. So I will say that it hasn't quite got to the point where people are like, oh yeah, let's get together and do really cool stuff and write code and so on. But it's a really good start. People are talking about what they're doing.
Cool. Are these all?
And one of them is even 2 of these things are hackathons. So there's EAG having a hackathon in a couple of weeks in Kuala Lumpur. Which I really hope I know someone who's going, because I really want to hear about how it goes. And there's another hackathon. They're all in the show notes. There's a couple more in February and March. But then there's a few Software Underground folks trying to get a hackathon to happen before EAGE annual meeting, which is in London this year. So there's a London Hack channel in Software Underground, which you can go check out if you're interested in being part of that, being part of organizing it and or being there.
Do you have talks coming up at some of these events?
I do not have plans to go to any more conferences this year other than the 2 unconferences that we're organizing.
Where are the unconferences?
Well, thank you for asking. I think I must have even last year on the show, I would have talked about the one that's coming up in May. So it's the 5th to the 11th of May. It's happening in France. It's fairly bijou as conferences go. It's only going to be about 40 people. And the theme for that one is this idea of getting a bit of energy together around a subsurface stack for Python. Cool. So trying to not unify the tools, but unify the approach to documentation, testing, installation, making these things, making sure they all run on the platforms that people want them to run on, and getting to the point where we can sort of point at a roadmap and say, here's what we've got planned in the petrophysics world. And, you know, right now there are about, I discovered yesterday, I can't remember, but 6 or 8 tools for geostatistics, for example, some of which are defunct. Some of them seem to be pretty cool. But a newbie coming in there, or a company that wants to look at doing geostats with Python, is going to be like, I don't have time to, yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, where do you start, right? And then you get in and discover that, oh, this one hasn't actually got a license, or it's GPL'd, or whatever. So I think we can, as a community, just start to get a little bit more, I don't want to say organized. It's not about an organization of any kind, but a bit more deliberate and sustainable about our software creation.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's the theme for that one. And it's called Transform, this unconference. I blogged about it today, agilescientific.com, or you can go to follow me on Twitter or Software Underground. There's a channel there for it too. So lots of ways to get involved in that one.
Sweet. Let's see. Oh yeah, there is a link there in the show notes. Cool.
You guys at Xpero ever dabbled in open source? Do you guys have a GitHub?
We have a GitHub. There's some stuff up there. We have some training courses and stuff. So there are little projects up there. Mostly it's just little science experiments and things.
Yeah.
I gave 2 online training courses in 2018, which are recorded. One is Intro to Machine Learning, one is Intro to Deep Learning. And they are not open source, I believe. They cost money, but they have, I don't know, go to the website or email me and we can hook you up with a discount code or something.
Cool.
Anyway, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoy the I don't know. Thought leadership is such an overused word, but yeah, sort of just like public outreach and getting in people's faces and talking about the projects they're working on. I mean, that's one of the reasons we have this podcast, right? Just figuring out what everybody else is doing. So in that light, I'll be at Google Next in April, giving a talk about a system we built extracting dimensionalities from 3D images taken like using a 3D camera. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. What is that, the new name for Google I/O, or is it a special machine learning conference, or what is Google Next?
I should definitely know the answer to that question. I believe that Next is their cloud computing conference.
Okay.
So it's pretty big. Last year, I think it was like 28,000 people. And yeah, so I expect it to be larger this year. And there is a bit of a flavor there, as you can imagine, in all of the talks about the Google Cloud Stack. So I mentioned that that's the talk I'm giving is a case study. And man, I've been just loving the Google Cloud Stack. I mean, it's like, okay. I mean, Amazon's MO, right, is to release not beta, but raw versions of things and let developers figure out what they like and don't like. But if you're a data scientist or someone who's not an exceptional developer, you know, who wants to focus more on analytics than you want to focus on development, the Google Cloud Stack just is wonderful for data science and machine learning in particular. So the case study I'm talking about will be what was built on and will be talked about in the light of a Google Cloud architecture. So that, cool. Are you going to SciPy?
It's doubtful.
Well,
doubtful. I would really like to. I'm pretty sure Diego's going to go.
You have 7 days to submit a talk.
7 days. Okay. Yeah.
I just submitted one.
getting our crap together. Do you know if there's a, because in recent past they've had a sort of Earth/Geo sub-session or whatever they call them. Do you know if they're doing that again? A theme?
They are doing that again. When I submitted my talk, they gave me a list of all of the various.
Okay.
I forget what they call them. Tracks? No, something. And I'm just trying to look it up now. Not doing a great job. Earth Sciences is on there.
Okay. Yeah. Fun. All right. Well, yeah, he hasn't been, so he really needs to go to it because it's so great. Changed my life, that conference.
No.
Yeah, no, I think it did.
Huh.
It definitely changed my professional life, upped my aspirations a notch or three. And
that's Matt Hall speaking, folks.
Yeah, it was the beginning of a lot of stuff. SciPy 2014, 2015.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. So it's in Austin, so I'll be there.
Yeah, of course, you're right there.
Give a talk, and if I don't get to give a talk, I will go and listen to some excellent talks. Don't miss the lightning talks. That was amazing.
Yeah, they're so good. There's so many great things about that conference. I know I've gone on and on about it before, but just so many eye-opening things. I feel like I think there are other conferences like that too. I know Jesper Dramsch said, I think it was PyCon that he went to, maybe PyCon UK, and said it was just an incredible conference in so many ways. Content, vibe, the people there, the stuff that they achieved in a short amount of time, which is also how I felt about SciPy. And I would just love to see more scientists just go to those things, even if they don't consider themselves programmers or coders or whatever, just to sort of see what real-time, participatory, collaborative energy feels like, because I've never been to a scientific conference that feels anything like that. And that kind of makes me sad, actually, that because there's no reason why we can't do that as scientists. I mean, everyone at SciPy is a scientist, I mean, I guess I should just, well, that is it. But you can't, like, geology conferences do not feel like that. And I don't really know why.
Well, we've rained down quite a bit of knowledge on our post today.
Oh, we sure have.
Be like continuing our water theme here. And there's a lot more in the show notes to cover. But we're not going to.
No, thank
God.
It's only a matter of time before we get to data lakes, and then we know we've sold out.
You know what I definitely should have done is prepared a riddle me this is what we used to call it for this show, but I didn't. So let's talk about what we're reading.
I got a book. I got a book to send you. I just realized.
A book?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good, because you may have noticed in the show notes, the last sentence in there, or used to be the last sentence, is what should I read next? Because I just finished my book last night.
Okay.
Which was Salt by Mark Kurlansky.
I feel like you read that before. Or was it Chris Jackson that was reading that?
No, it was Chris, and he recommended it to me, and I said, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I'm glad I did. It was interesting and quirky and fun, which is not something that you often find in a history of human society book.
That's what it focuses on, is it? It's a history.
Yeah, I mean, it's told. It's like a cross section through human history, starting from like 6000 BC, through the lens of salt.
Nice.
Salt lenses.
So you're gonna try and eat more salt now, in appreciation of it.
Well, I won't. I'm not going to. Let me not spoil any endings of the book, but they do touch on whether or not you should eat salt.
Oh, okay.
So you got to read it.
Cool.
What are you reading?
Well, do I have a suggestion? I mean, I read anything recently that's really blown my mind. I have done not a lot of reading lately, it has to be said. I've been mostly in kind of totally burned out, can't even think straight kind of mode. Yeah, I know, it's pretty sad. Teaching is I mean, you know this. You've taught live classes too, right?
Yeah.
To human beings in a room. I mean, I was chatting to my sister about this. She teaches like reception class at primary school, so very small children. So it's a bit of a different experience teaching Python to professional scientists and engineers. But we agreed that this must be a known phenomenon, but being in front of people all day like that, and ostensibly the sort of leader, as it were, like the person who decides what's happening now, we're going to do this, and then there's a break, and then we're doing that, and ask me questions and I'll come help you, and we're like live coding in the class too. It drains you in a way that really hardly anything else drains you. Like there's something about, it's almost like what I've heard some cultures say about people taking photographs, like it steals their spirit. You almost feel like it's something like that. Like there's something about being the source of energy for a group of people. Because and of course, sometimes, especially Monday morning, getting started, it's 8 a.m. People are like, oh, really? And you've got to be on, and you're on till like 4:30 or whenever you finish. And yeah, it's brutal. Like it's awesome. Like I love being in the room, but afterwards you're just like done. Anyway, sorry. So that's why.
Yet you take your personal time to come here and be the energy of this show.
Oh,
thanks.
Anyway, yeah. So I am reading right now a book that I bought ages ago. I can't remember how I heard about it, but it's called Computational Fairy Tales. Mm-hmm. It's by Jeremy Kubica, and he writes a blog, or wrote a blog. I think it may have been in a blog that ran its course, called something like, I think it's called Computational Fairy Tales. And he sort of tries to map computer science principles onto a fairy tale narrative.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it was intriguing enough for me to buy it and then start reading it. And I'm always looking for ways to explain stuff, right? What's an array? What's a computer? Like how do loops work? That kind of thing. And that's basically what he does with these stories. So if you're a teacher of computery stuff, I think it probably is worth a read.
But you say you're not quite yet sure how you feel about it.
Yeah, it's very like, it almost takes the mapping a really long way down the fairy tale road.
The analogy is extended, shall we say.
So yeah, it's I don't know. That's one of the constant struggles actually when you're teaching computery stuff is, I don't know if you've heard people talk about the ladder of abstraction, but it's like you're constantly running up and down the ladder of abstraction, right? So we try to map all of these principles onto geoscience stuff, data, workflows, problems. Like that's our kind of MO for the course. It's like that's why people choose us, kind of thing. And I think that goes so far, but sometimes you want a different kind of analogy. And so, you can improvise a bit there, but it is nice to have a consistent, it's nice to have analogies that you can kind of keep coming back to, right? You remember how when we talked about loops, okay, well now imagine this. And that is it's quite hard to come up with those so that they work and don't feel shoehorned. So I admire what he's done with this, and he's done a few actually. I think I saw that there was another CS Detective Stories, I think was his latest one. So he sounds like he's got another spin on kind of computer science explanations.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll put it on my list of books to evaluate this evening while I'm sitting around here trying to find a new book to read.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh yeah, remember how we used to when we signed off this show, I would just ask you some random question that you had to come up with?
I remember those days, yeah.
Okay, so I guess we should do that. So Matt, we've had a whole episode with this water theme. So if you were going to sign off a podcast about an episode with a water theme, what would you use?
I really need the bathroom.
And we're